continue now. So these are micrographs of the endoplasmic reticulum. Ribosomes are granules of protein and RNA. So you find them in the nucleoli, in the nucleus, but they're also free in the cytosol and on the rough endoplasmic reticulum. So ribosomes function to make proteins. To do that, they use directions in messenger RNA. And the messenger RNA is transcribed from DNA. So that's how you get proteins from DNA, through this messenger called messenger RNA. And the ribosomes have that function. The Golgi is also a flattened sac, so cisternae. They take the proteins that were made in the endoplasmic reticulum and they package them up. They add carbohydrates to them to make them glycoproteins, and they form vesicles. Some vesicles that have the proteins inside them will be lysosomes that stay in the cell. And they have enzymes for digestion of things within the cell. Some of them will be secreted in secretory vesicles from the Golgi. So they are secreted out of the cell, and some just remain on the plasma membrane. Here's the Golgi complex. So these are some of the vesicles here. Some of these vesicles on one side came from the rough endoplasmic reticulum, and some of them on the other side are budding off in order to exit from the cell, or sometimes to remain in the cell. Lysosomes are enzymes in a single unit membrane. They're variable in shape, and the function of the lysosomes is to digest large molecules. Also, sometimes the organelles in the cell get worn out and they're not functioning anymore. Autophagy, auto means self, is the digestion of worn out organelles. Autolysis also occurs in cells whereby the lysosomes will digest the whole cell. So that's known as programmed cell death or apoptosis. So that's something, for example, that happened when your hands were developing. They used to have webs between your fingers, but through programmed cell death, the webbing disappeared. Also, the lysosomes break down glycogen in the liver and releases glucose to be used by the body. Here's an example of lysosomes. They're usually fairly dark because they contain enzymes and sometimes also materials that the enzymes are digesting. Peroxisomes are also found in the cell, and peroxisomes, the peroxisomes function, they resemble lysosomes, but they have different enzymes. They're in all cells, but they're very abundant in the liver and kidney because they neutralize free radicals, they detoxify alcohol, they detoxify other drugs and toxins as well. They use oxygen, and they catalyze enzymes with a hydrogen oxide, I can't remember what that stands for. Catalyze enzymes to oxidize organic molecules, and they break down fatty acids so that the mitochondria can use it. So, glucose is our first, I call it responder because I hear that word so much these days, for cellular respiration. But if you have run out of glucose or carbohydrates and you require fat for making energy with cellular respiration, then these fatty acids need to be broken down into acetyl groups for the mitochondria to use it in cellular respiration. And here is the mitochondrion. It's a double unit membrane. It's thought that eukaryotes arose from prokaryotes when they engulfed, through phagocytosis, other prokaryotes. So one of those prokaryotes might have looked like a mitochondria capable of providing a lot of energy. The folds in here are called cristae, and the mitochondrion is responsible for synthesizing ATP. The enzymes are all embedded. They're embedded right into that membrane, those cristae. The space between the cristae is called the matrix. Yeah, the matrix contains ribosomes and, what's very interesting, small circular DNA molecules, mitochondrial DNA. And this is one of the reasons why it's thought that the mitochondria initially, like 2.8 billion years ago, were absorbed into other cells because they have their own DNA. And this mitochondrial DNA is responsible for coding for the enzymes in cellular respiration. I think there's about 35 of them. So code for cellular respiration enzymes. And another very interesting thing about mitochondria is that you only get them from your mother. So your mother provides, along with her DNA, the components of the egg, including the mitochondria. So this DNA that you've inherited from your parents came from your mother. So you don't get any mitochondrial DNA from your father. So there are some disorders that can be passed down from a mother to all of the offspring. So this is an electron micrograph of a mitochondrion. You can see the cristae here. It's very dotted. I don't know if you can see that very well, but there you can see all the enzymes that are embedded into the cristae. Centrioles are a combination of microtubules. Eventually, these will become part of the spindles that help to pull chromosomes to either side of the cell. I think the cytoskeleton was very prevalent in that first video that we saw. I'll have to remember to show that to you on Monday again. So the cytoskeleton is a collection of filaments and tubules, and it provides support. It provides support. It maintains the shape of the cell. It organizes the cell so that the endomembrane system is in particular places, and that also the cell can move, so through cytoplasmic streaming. The cytoskeleton has different kinds of fibers. Some are called microfilaments. That's actin. And we saw that work in the intestines, where the villi, the microvilli, had actin that pulled food into the cell. They also form a network on the cytoplasmic side of the membrane that's inside the cell, called the membrane skeleton. So it supports the phospholipids that are part of the membrane and microvilli, and it produces some cell movement. Intermediate fibers, part of the cytoskeleton, hold epithelial cells together, for example. They resist stresses on cells, so they keep the cells from breaking up. They line the nuclear envelope, and they toughen your hair and nails. Microtubules are the larger parts of the skeleton. So here's a microtubule. It's quite large. And the microtubule function, I don't know if I have that written down. I don't think I do. The microtubule function is to transport as well as maintain the shape of the cell. So the microtubules maintain shape and help transport organelles. So the large blue, I think it was a lysosome in that film, it showed it being transported along a microtubule. So excellent. I would like to end there. Thank you so much for watching.